Hello and welcome to the What's Your Everest podcast. My name is Liam Hubbard. I'm an intern here at Everest Strong Coaching, and today I'm co-hosting with my co-host, Dr. Carla Steingraber. Carla is a certified mental game coach, and for nearly 20 years now has been practicing as a licensed clinical and a licensed sport psychologist, helping athletes of all ages, sports, skill levels improve their mental game. And today I'm thrilled to be able to welcome our guest, CJ Beatty. Our guest, CJ, his story begins with professional baseball. CJ spent years chasing the dream of playing in the MLB. And in 2009, that dream came true. CJ was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals and had the experience of grinding through pro ball and living the identity that so many kids grow up wanting to have. And then he did something that might be even harder than getting into the league. He reinvented himself. Today, CJ Beatty is an internationally renowned motivational speaker, musical artist, and an entrepreneurial force through his motivator brands. In his role as the baseball motivator, the softball motivator, and the golf motivator, he helps athletes and leaders confront the question, who are you when the jersey comes off? So, CJ, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, CJ. Well, how about before we get to that resume, you and I, we go way back talking golf since forever.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But how about if I actually met you when you were playing for the Cardinals and asked you, who are you? What would you have said then? And how different would your answer be today?
Back then I would have said something more prime time Dion. I'm the guy. I'm the dude. What do you mean? There's no everybody else out here? You look around, they're irrelevant. It's about me. And nowadays, after getting married and being humbled by my wife and repeatedly humbled by my 4-year-old daughter, I would say that I am a servant and know my place. But also I would say now I'm more of a, I have an addiction of help with helping people. I know people look at that most of the times addiction is a negative thing, but I look at it as it depends on what you're addicted to. I'm addicted to helping people. That it just really fuels me. So that's who I am now.
Yeah. I,
I
I
love
mean, and
that.
I've seen the way you interact with kids. So definitely you found your passion.
Thank you.
And CJ, take us and our listeners back to the very beginning, growing up in that's a tongue twister, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, going
hmm
to A&T, drafted by the Cardinals, and then into pro ball. What did, your identity as the baseball guy feel like from the inside?
I felt like I would say underdog. If I had to pick one word, I would say underdog. Underdog has always been, I got a lot to prove. My upbringing consisted of a truck driver and a mother that worked for the local paper in advertising. So we lived the blue collar life that centered around, saving every penny and tucking everything away, as we call mattress money for the rainy day. Um, but that became it. It was like, you know what? I see it. I'm right there at that mid-level lifestyle to say, like, if I want more, I was taught that you need to do more. My father, I think what he really instilled inside of me was that work ethic, that even though you might not
Mhm.
like it, being a truck driver in a way, you still sign up and you go and deliver what you said you were going to do. And my
Mhm.
mother just being the professionalism of her, just, hey, setting a different path and not wanting to be like other people, something that she like really burned on the inside of me of, hey, walk the path less traveled. And I think that when you put all of that together, you come up with CJ Beatty. And I'm very, very thankful for my parents and their upbringing and my upbringing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as a professional baseball player and somebody playing baseball their entire life to get there, I imagine that, someone's identity is largely constructed around athletics if they're in that position. So, I'm curious as moving through life, when did you first sense that the athlete identity might not be permanent or maybe not sufficient? And was there a moment that was the catalyst for that? Was it gradual? Walk us through that experience.
Real life hit once I got to pro ball. I felt like that I was unstoppable from little league all the way to pro ball. Felt like I was unstoppable. I felt like it didn't matter what team that I got on at any level. I was betting on myself, and I was like, "Hey, just give me some time, and I'm gonna take over this team as well. Give me some time. I'm gonna be one of the key guys on this team. Don't matter the level, the competition, the difficulty. I've always excelled. Um, I didn't realize real life until I got to professional baseball, and you saw some people put up numbers that were all-star caliber, and the next spring training get released.
Mm.
Mm.
That's when it happened, and I started to understand the business behind it. And it was kind of like, you take a step back to say, okay, so what do they want? I think that was the turning point for me to really start to see the world through a different lens mentally. Right there,
Right.
it's like, hey, you could
Mhm.
do everything right and still get it wrong.
Mm. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really incredible because from such a young age, you were able to have so much confidence in what you were doing because you were met with so much success.
Mhm.
And from conversations you and I have had, I know what an incredible encourager your mother was in your life. So, what was the hardest part psychologically as that identity started shifting? Because we get kind of convinced that this is our path. So
Mhm.
obviously there's a loss of routine, maybe status loss, uncertainty, even the what now.
I think the biggest thing, that's when you insert inside of that gap. I started to become aware of the deficiency of mental toughness. Because think about it. I mean, I don't know how much mental toughness a person may need when everything's going right. My adversities back then was, darn it, I didn't hit a home run. That was my
Mm.
adversity. So I'm gonna go back tomorrow and I'm gonna hit another one. I never had to worry about not playing. I never had to worry about not having enough money to play because I was sponsored to play. I never had to worry about not having the right equipment. I didn't have any adversities. So when I got to pro ball and I started to feel adversity and understanding that the physical couldn't solve it, that's when I started to understand that mental toughness is real.
Mm.
Routine approaches, dieting, visualization, all of the things that I never had to do. I had a crash course with reality to understand that if you don't have this mental toughness, this is where you get off.
Mm,
Mm.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, and that's really true, right? And certainly in sports psychology and actually otherwise in psychology too, there's a term called identity foreclosure. That early on you just decide you're going to be a doctor, or early on, you're going to be a baseball player, etc. But that means that you're then defined only by this one thing, only in this case by your sport. Did you ever live in that headspace? And if so, like how did you learn to open up to new self concepts and really stretch yourself into other areas? Because you did have a reinvention in your life.
Yep, that reinvention, that turning point happened. I was in Australia, and God has a way of, when He wants your attention, isolating you or doing something or allowing something to happen that gets your attention for another season that's getting ready to come your way. I was in Brisbane, Australia. I got the opportunity of playing there in their major leagues in the ABL, Australian Baseball League. Be aware of where you are so you can be ready when transitions need to happen.
Mm,
And I was aware that I hadn't made it to the major league for the $1 million contract. And I'm staring down, I can see the door to the major leagues to be like right in front of me, but I had never got a call
Mm.
and I wasn't hearing anything. And in baseball, can't speak to other sports, but at the professional level, especially at the minor league level, if you haven't reached a certain level by 27, you're starting to be looked at as damaged goods.
Mm.
And I was 27 in Brisbane. And I haven't heard anything from an agent or anybody else to tell me that you're the next one up or I'm working on a contract deal with this team. It's quiet. I mean, I'm enjoying myself in Australia and I'm, continuously growing my fan base and things. But the ultimate goal is to be on TV competing for one of those big time spots. So that was the turning point, and that was around 2012 for me in my career. And up until that point, um, ever since I became a pro in 2009, I was a motivational speaker, but not by trade. It was something that I felt was my duty because I had chose role models that inspired me to do the same thing in my community that I seen them doing theirs. So I was already speaking, but not professionally. I was getting nothing. I was not receiving any gifts or asking for a fee. In 2012, I had a FaceTime call with my mother,
Mhm.
and I had to ask her to help me with that identity, to help me with that transition. I said, Mom,
Mm.
I don't know who I am after baseball. And it looks like that window is closing. And she was able to kind of help walk me through, like, what else are you good at? Some elementary questions. What else are you good at? Let's start there. And I remember telling my mom with a chuckle, like, Mom, that's kind of a rhetorical question because
Mm.
since five, ball's been my identity in life.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
put this into perspective for you guys to understand what a lot of us go through. I haven't been at that particular time, I haven't been to a family reunion, which are traditionally in the summers where you will get up with
Mhm.
your family. I haven't been to a family reunion since I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And I told you I was 27.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a
Because
lot was sacrificed for this identity.
you see what I'm saying? So it was
Mhm.
like I
Right.
didn't know anything outside of baseball. So how are you gonna ask
Mm.
me what else am I good at if that's my
Yeah.
Right.
whole life?
Yeah.
So just to wrap all of that up, she said, well, and then I kind of forcefully said, well, I mean, I'm good at speaking. People say they'd like to hear me speak. But surely you can't make a living being a motivational speaker, can you? And this is 27. It ain't like I can call Tony Robbins, or Les Brown and just say, hey, buddy, pick up the phone and let me talk to you about how motivational speaking is going for you. I didn't have those people in my network. So I asked that question truthfully, like, can you make a living being a speaker? Because I love doing it. And she
Mhm.
says, hey, surely you can if you dive
Mm.
deep and become pretty good, and then that's when I fell in love with the pursuit of simultaneously still chasing baseball, but also now branching out to say, I want to be a motivational speaker. So when the time ends for baseball, I can transition into motivational speaking. And so that's how that happened.
That's really
Awesome.
interesting, and that makes so much sense of how it was kind of, you're starting out with both of these so that it's not like you're just, falling off a cliff with like, "What am I doing now?" Like, kind of establishing that.
You hear the stories, retired
Mhm.
from baseball, and, they go from doing the high life to a garbage man, no disrespect, but you understand where I'm coming from because they didn't have a plan in place and life kind of just dealt them a hand and they're just going with it. So it was the fear of the unknown. It was like baseball was everything to me. So where do I fit in society if I'm not playing baseball? If I'm not practicing
Mhm.
off season? If I'm not sprinting and getting my body right for spring training? Like what does life look like for me? I'm not in my 30s. I'm not in near my 40s. So everybody else that I know that are friends of mine, they're working career jobs. I don't have a career job.
Mhm.
And at that
Mhm.
point, I don't even have a degree. So what do I do? Do I go back to school? Do I motivational speakers not work? So there's a lot of different things that was going through my mind. Like
Right.
this has to work, but if it doesn't, what's next? Um,
Mhm.
but I really do want to say that a integral part of that coming all together was getting out of self and being able to anchor um, my next moves in faith.
Mm.
Mhm.
Anchoring it in faith is what brought me through to know that I'm going to be okay.
Sometimes, like if I'm facing a really difficult challenge, uh, the one thing I know is I can count on me,
Mm.
that whatever it is, I'll figure it out. And that I kind of say that to myself, whatever it is, I'll figure it out. That might mean I need to find someone to help me figure it out, but already like that's the beginning of
Mhm.
me getting to the finish line. And you've said something similar. You said it starts with me and ends with me.
Yes.
So, how do you connect that to identity, responsibility, personal transformation, and even life satisfaction?
It starts with me, it ends with me, starts with um I had to I say this as a speaker, I had to learn how to OD on PD, overdose on personal development.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? As,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
people think again, like when you hear OD, it's like, oh, this is just terrible. I won't even want to talk about it. But again, on personal development, I needed a crash course into building me back up for the journey. Um, and that's what really helped me get into routines. Because again, I didn't know what mental toughness was truly about. And by the time I understood what mental toughness was, my times with the Cardinals was over. I was already released. So going
Mm.
into this, John Maxwell and his literature and learning leadership books and all of this, that's what kind of really helped me say, you know what? Like you said, Dr. Carla, I can do this because the book says I can. There's literature
Yeah.
out here that allows me to believe that I can actually do this and make this happen. So the more and more I read and the more and more I talked and opened up my mouth and asked questions, it started to like this this belief system started to grow that I can do this. I'm not lost anymore. I have a plan and I have
Mhm.
a direction.
I love that because I really agree with you on the reading part. There is so much that we get out of reading, and I was never like a big novel reader or something like that. But it every time I read a book, I'm feeling smarter. I've learned
Mhm.
something because somebody took, I don't know, 5 years to research, 10 years to research, and they compiled all that information. And I get that. I get to absorb all of that in just a few hours, right?
Mhm,
A
mhm.
short commitment. And I get that much smarter. And young people today, unfortunately, they're kind of not reading as much as people used to. And there's so much to be gained from that.
So much.
No, I absolutely agree with both of you. And Carla, speaking of the younger generation, CJ, I'm really curious in your work with younger athletes who are still fully in their sport. How do you help them prepare psychologically for before the after hits in terms of like
Mm.
laying out groundwork now? And specifically, I wonder how you handle um, conveying this message in a way that boosts people up instead of kind of feeling down like, oh, well, I'm not even going to play forever. So like, well, this stinks kind of thing. I found
Yeah.
it really interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? I have grabbed that flag and I am taking that everywhere I go. We have this thing, a part of my motivator brands called the TBM if I'm doing baseball, TSM if I'm doing softball, TGM if I'm doing golf, workshops, mental skills workshops. And it is for all ages. And this is something that John Maxwell taught me. Um, People look at the complex nature of mental toughness and psychology and sports and say, oh man, my 7-year-old just needs to play. She doesn't need to be introduced to that right now. And I beg to differ strongly. I believe that anybody can get the information. It's about the person that's communicating the information to them. Are they
Hmm.
capable of delivering it in a way that that 7-year-old can receive some of it? Not all of it, but some. I look at getting people involved in personal development and reading books and routines and approaches. I look at that as, hey, if I'm working with you, Dr. Carl, if I'm working with you, you might be able to, take in the reading part. But if I'm working with other players, everybody's different. I might just get
Mm.
started with them with routines. I might get started with them with making their beds, get started with them with sticky notes as reminders in their room. And we start from the bedroom. And
Yeah.
so what I have done in my workshops is I introduce mental toughness as a family on how they can do readings together at the kitchen table. I introduce it to 7 and 8 year olds with a situation like with be an interior designer of your bedroom and put your sticky notes everywhere. Make sure they're colorful and neat. Um, Being able to put posters up that have affirmations on it and tell your parents to get them off Amazon or Etsy and then redecorate your room. We're having fun with planting the seed of mental skills inside of these kids, and it goes up with age and experience. But
Of
I
course.
just
Right.
believe that nobody in my upbringing, including my parents, and they didn't know what they don't know, nobody introduced me to the psychology of sports, the next level of thinking.
Mm,
Nobody talked to me about mental toughness until I was well into my 20s. Nobody. It was always about physical, hitting the ball hard. If you don't do it, go back out there and hit more balls. And well, if you didn't, you struck out again. Well, go hit more balls. It was never anything else between the ears. I didn't get a chance to understand me as a player. I didn't know, with me battling with ADD, I didn't know about that. I didn't know. I'm still learning me.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even know that it's hard for me to get the best out of me if I don't even know me. So what we're doing right now as a whole is wanting to collaborate, um, with organizations and companies like Everest to be able to come in and talk and equip parents and players and coaches with alternatives and resources.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's relatively new that anybody is talking about mental toughness, especially as it pertains to sport. Um, I mean, certainly people would have said, oh, he's weak or he's strong, and that would have been kind of it. But they haven't paid a ton of attention to what's going on emotionally with the player.
Mhm,
No one really wanted to deal with it, but we're obviously being confronted with it more and more. And it really
mhm,
sounds like you put effort towards meeting somebody where they're at,
mhm.
giving them that next step that might be just a little above where they're at, but not right away asking them to do something that's so far out. So that's
Yeah,
really, really incredible.
yeah, I
Are there,
appreciate.
yeah, it's the only way to get the buy-in from somebody. If they're overwhelmed right away, how's that
Yes,
going to work out?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the case, and we're always, we're open to learning different things and more. But I just feel like when I tell these parents about mental toughness, I feel like it's their job, coaches, it's your job to introduce. It clicks at different ages and stages for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It really does. And I just believe that it's our job to at least plant the seed and to stay consistent with exposure. So when it does click, it doesn't have to click like it clicked for me at 23. If they exposed me of reading and devising a plan of what you're going to do at 8 and 9, maybe it could have clicked for me at 13.
Yeah.
right.
Maybe it could have clicked for me earlier in my life and I could have saved time, or my mental slumps wouldn't have lasted months or the season, or I lost a whole season of recruiting because I didn't even know that I was battling something mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Were there any specific mental habits or routines that really helped you manage uncertainty? Because I know even the young kids, they're so worried about making their high school team. And
Yeah.
certainly, if they're at all thinking about college, they're worried about making the college team. And there's all that uncertainty. And if that doesn't work out for them, what's next? So you had to have habits to manage uncertainty just going forward and specifically in coping with your career risk.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the golden gems that I got from my time with the Cardinals, Mike Schilt, which is now the manager of the San Diego Padres, he was my rookie ball manager. And as the story goes, we were in Johnson City, Tennessee. And a lot of, if not all, a lot of the new draft picks of the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2009 draft that were college and above or mature enough started in Johnson City, Tennessee. When we got there after the draft and all of the roses and the red carpet rollout, we all arrived at Johnson City. And I remember once we got dressed, we're meeting people. I'm like, oh man, that's the guy that got drafted in the first round. That's the guy that got drafted in the fourth round. Oh, I remember him. He was at UCLA. After all that died down and we were all equal, wearing the same colors, we all went out to the field for our first day of practice together. And we got out to the right field line, and Mike Schilt congratulated us on being drafted. He says, because I want to tell you something that's going to change the landscape of your life. And if you listen to me and do exactly as I say with this exercise, I forgot what I think he's the exercise, I will guarantee that you'll make it to double A. And here we are in rookie ball. So we're like, man, you got to go to advanced rookie, low at the short season, low A, high A to get to double A. So if he's guaranteeing, because there's no guarantee in pro ball, you get released because they just don't like you anymore. So when he said guaranteed, you don't give out guarantees unless it's guaranteed. So
Yeah.
we're on the edge of our seats, like, okay, talk to us, Skip. He says, what you need to do is to keep a sound notebook. A notebook. Yep. Routine. What works best for you in pro ball, how the pitchers are pitching you, what you're working on at practice, what you work on the next day, how well you did, how did you feel mentally, quotes, affirmations. It's a notebook for you, a professional journal along the way. Who you faced, how did they pitch you, what pitches, how are you feeling, how did you hit, your batting average, keep it all together and log it. If you do that, I guarantee you mentally, it'll get you to at least double A.
That's
And
really cool.
That's
that right
really
there. And I took that. Now, let me tell you something. I did about 75% of the journal, and I got 75% of the way. I got the high A. And it's crazy how that worked out because I got the high A literally. And as I tell the story, I was on stage. I was like, man, that is right. I did about 75% of the work, and I got 75% there. He was right. Because it kind of slacked off with the journal and the note taking, and that's what happened. But I then bounced back to say, I love that. I felt prepared when I was keeping that journal. I felt like I had a plan of attack. I felt like I knew what I was going to work on the next day by going in my journal to find out when I was doing well. Okay, let me go back to see when I was doing well. I was thinking about this. That's a great place to start. So I had a journal, and I started journaling in every aspect of my life. Like for marriage, for being a girl dad, for building things, entrepreneurship, this brand, launching this. I started journaling. Everything had its own journal. So I would say that's one of the key things that I took away mentally from the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, that's something. I think right there, I mean, for any of our listeners to be aware that a journal like that builds awareness, number one. You build a memory, of course, because like CJ, you're saying, you can look back. What was happening then? Why was it working then or not working now? Whatever it is. And then you actually are also setting intentions. This is what I'm working on now. Because if we just go through a practice without an intention of what I'm trying to accomplish, how are you going to achieve any goals when it's actually a game, right?
That's
It's
right.
such a big difference. Those notebooks and awareness is so important. So tell me a little bit though about music as a medium, right? What problem did music solve for you that locker room talk never could?
Music is always that place for anybody that it's a stimulant, whether it's a bad stimulant or a good stimulant. But music played, I grew up in the church, so I played drums for my church growing up. Back in the day, I think you were required to either sing in the chorus in the 8th grade or to play an instrument. I chose not to sing, but I chose to play the trumpet. And so I learned how to play the trumpet. I play piano by ear. So music has been an intricate part of my life outside of sport. But I would say, music is around us all the time. When you see LeBron James get off the bus going into an arena, what does he have? headphones. You know,
Right.
Right.
music plays a big part. That's why it's important on what we listen to and what we let in, because that plays a part into what you think about yourself. You know, you could be listening. I remember I was guilty of this too. I used to listen to music just because of the way it was produced. I mean, I like the way that they bring in the horns, and I like the way they bring in, um, the bass. But little did I know the words subliminally was sticking to me and my identity. So if they were talking about something that was depressing, then it would alter the way that I feel about myself without me not even knowing that until I was brought to my attention. So, but music is huge. And then that's what really kind of led me into, Beatty music. What it is today is I stumbled across how the psychology of listening to the wrong stuff can influence
Huh.
who you are in your upbringing. So I found out that kids were listening to the wrong stuff or choosing the wrong music for their baseball and softball walk-up songs. Whenever you walk up to the
Mhm.
plate, they like to turn on a song for you to walk to the plate for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And kids were, no shame, no offense, but they were, you got a 7-year-old girl listening to have Cardi B and what she's talking about. And I was just like, wait a minute. Or it'll be something that the girl wasn't
Mhm.
even born. And they got, yin yang twins and millennials playing, and it's like they wouldn't even allow alive to know who the yin yang twins, the Little John and the East Side Boys are.
Yeah.
So I raised my
There are
hand.
some good classics, though.
And there are some good classics, but it's like, down low, down low. It's like, wait a minute, hold on now. She's 7. She shouldn't be down
Yeah,
low,
she's
down low.
7. That's right. Yeah.
So I just looked at it as an opportunity for me to be able to break through my positive brand of motivational speaking. Say, hey, I'll try my hand at some music, some positive music that sounds the same, but has some more intent with some positivity. And it's stuck. And now we're doing a lot of big things in music right now.
I love that. I think that's like you've found with your music this really important thing where you can have the vibe of this music that's awesome and gets you going, but it's like the words are also bringing you up. You know what I mean? I think that's such a good example
Thank you.
Yeah.
um of the younger kids listening to stuff where I'm like, yo, like what's going on?
Like,
But
who wrote that song?
exactly. But I'm so interested to know from your psychological space when you're in these different spheres. For example, when you are on stage performing
Okay.
versus being in a dugout or a coach's room, what is psychologically the same and what is completely different for you?
You know, I would say when you're in the dugout, I feel like it's chess, because you always got to stay, 3 and 4 moves ahead. Typically, when you're in the dugout, you're thinking about your next at bat. You're wanting to know what type of adjustments you're going to make prior to it. And then at the same time, a play just happens in the field that could alter what you had planned before. Now you need to, okay, here comes a new pitcher. So that whole plan goes out. Let me stand up here on the fence and watch him warm up so I can see what he has today and what he doesn't have today. Well, he looks like he's throwing slow, so I need to do this. Getting information from the player that just faced him. Hey, man, what did you see? And now let me revamp my plan a little bit. So I feel like it's a lot of chess going on, a game within the game with the psychology of the baseball. But when I'm on
Mhm.
stage, performing when it comes to that of speaking or that of performing my music, man, it's just feeding off of the energy of
Mm,
of the crowd, and that really dictates how you perform. It's what are you feeling? I can go in there with a plan of how I'm going to do this song, but if they need to be if their energy is low, then that means I need to come in a little higher to pump them up. But if their energy is high already, man, it's like magic. It's like magic already. So there's a lot of, where it's more. Oh, to answer this too, when you're playing baseball or in the game, we teach our players and we learn that you got to try to be even keel.
Mm.
yeah.
You can have your emotions too high and too low. It's hard to perform
Right.
or be consistent. But as a performer, well, my emotion has to be here. We got to be on 3 Red Bulls. You know, we we
You
always
gotta liver enzymes at the end of that.
right. I mean, it's like a chugging like gallons of water at the end. But yeah, so it's different psychologically.
That's so interesting. And I think, especially as someone in myself, really fascinated by performance psychology in general. I'd love to work with athletes, but also musicians. I never thought about that before, how the differences you mentioned.
When you're on stage, it's more like their expectations of you, regardless of how you feel, is here, and you need to deliver.
Mm, yeah,
So it's like when you step up on the stage, whatever music you got to listen to, routine, whatever. As soon as you shake up, you got to go and deliver. Even with me as a motivational speaker, I can't come out there and just be mundane. I need
right.
I need to be able to step up there with energy of to so they can feel enlightenment, and all those things.
Yeah,
Well, it's
yeah,
much more of an interaction, right? You're giving your audience, whether you're motivating or whether you're performing, you're giving your audience energy. They're giving it back to you. But when you're playing baseball, you kind of have to ignore the crowds
Mm,
completely.
mhm. You
It's
definitely do.
just you and the ball, really.
You definitely do, and it's tough. It's tough, especially when you get to pro ball and you're visiting and you're not at home. Oh my gosh, you hear a little bit of
Yeah,
everything on the road, and you just gotta be able to have laser focus and try to tune it out. You hear everything, but you don't have to react to everything.
right,
You
mhm,
gotta
right.
be able to that's that other game within the game because you can't physically shut off your ears.
Now you built the baseball motivator, the softball motivator, the golf motivator. What is the psychology behind branding by sport identity?
Dealing with males and guys and men and all that's different voice than when I switch over to speaking to the young ladies or to ladies in the sport. It's a difference, and it's a different uh, category when I'm speaking to a golf team or up and coming golfers and what their energy and the psychology of that is. So I, I really did appreciate hearing, and a lot of that before I launched these brands. I did case studies. I wanted to hear from parents of softball players, parents of young golfers. I wanted to hear through some of their struggles and what they're going through. And that's when I understood that these are all different fronts. Even though they're competitive sports, they're all different. It takes a different level of thinking on this side, takes a different level of effort when it comes to the output when you're on the field versus when you're on the first tee. As we talked about first tee jitters and everything like that, I think they all have some overlapping, but there's different personalities that you got to have on a golf course versus,
Oh,
right.
totally. So, what then would be one or two tools that you would hand directly to an athlete listening right now who's terrified of life after the jersey comes off or
Mhm.
the golf clubs get hung up in the garage?
You know what? I think the first thing that I would say to them is fall in love with do a case study on you.
Ah, I love that.
Because so much whenever you get done doing what you've been doing your whole life, I mean, and it's crazy to think this. I mean, come on, guys. A lot of us continue to play a sport that people put on us to play.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah,
Think about
for
that.
sure.
If mom and dad failed at a sport and then they had a baby
Oh,
girl
yeah.
or baby boy, I mean, how many people? I mean, think about it. I mean, my we're gonna have another kid in January, and little does he know I'm already ordering him golf stuff. You know what I'm saying? And in hopes that it sticks,
Yeah.
So, and with him being a good son, he might just play it because dad wants him to play it, but maybe that might not be what he wants to identify as. So, whenever you do hang it up, the first thing that I tell people is take your time finding out who you are. Take the time doing your research on understanding you. Open up the hood and find out who you are. And then that's going to help guide you in the direction of your next move.
Mm.
Mm. I think that's really valuable to our listeners out there, because something I really admire about you, CJ, is how proactive you were in your life when you were faced with that
Mhm.
crossroads. And I think that
Thank you.
for anyone listening right now, I mean, that's just you're hearing advice from the best. So So thank you for sharing that. And
No worries.
I'm curious if you could speak to your younger pro baseball self, what would
Mhm.
you tell him?
If I could speak to the younger version of me as a baseball player, I would tell him to keep swinging no matter what. Like to seriously keep swinging and swing harder. One of the things that I found out when I was a young coach, I found out, man, the players that I love coaching are the ones that fail aggressively.
Oh,
I
uh-huh.
love that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's who I love coaching. I don't like to coach the know-it-alls. I don't like to coach the ones that are timid, but the
Mhm.
ones that fail forward, the ones that make a diving play when they shouldn't have dived, and they gave up 3 runs because they dove at the wrong time, but they dove. They
Mm.
gave up their body. That's the one that I'm saying, hey, I know you. Hey, meet me right here. Look, look, look. The effort was amazing. It's just that what we have to realize is when we have runners in scoring position like that, we might not want to dive there. We might want that to fall in front to keep that other runners from scoring and having a big inning. But the effort was amazing versus the person that should have dove, but they're scared of getting hurt.
Mm, yeah.
They're scared of making a mistake. So once I found that I was a younger coach, that's what helped me become a better coach is understanding how to encourage the players to fail forward. Swing your bat. Well, coach, what if I strike out? You strike out. But I don't want you to go
Mhm.
up there and just watch 3 down the middle. No, in the
Right.
fear of getting, I hope I get walked. What kind of a player are you
Yeah.
if you get walked? Like I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't, I didn't buy your $400 bat, $200 glove, pay your fees for you to hope to get walked. If that's the case, go
Right.
throw a little broomstick, you know? So I would tell
Yeah.
my younger self or anybody that's listening today, swing it, go for the fences, fail forward. If you make a mistake, it's okay. The only people that play this game at a high level are not afraid to make mistakes.
Mm,
Think about
I
that.
Well,
love
s
People
that.
that play the game at
it's
a high level are not afraid to make mistakes.
yeah, you really can't be, and I'm confronted with this all the time when I get young athletes in my office. They've become perfectionistic,
Mhm.
and there is no perfect in a game. There just isn't. There's a really good performance, and there's a not so good performance, but you're so right in terms of being willing to fail aggressively or fail forward. Ultimately, that's somebody who's got a growth mindset,
Mm.
someone where mistakes are viewed as part of what's going to make them better, because you start to not only give your brain the chance to make micro adjustments in whatever the movement might be, but you're learning you're going to miss all the baskets. You're going to miss so many. I mean, Michael Jordan has his famous quote, and athletes like that, they take all the risks, and that's how you become more successful. The more risk you take, the more successful you'll be. Being timid in the corner, you won't
Yeah.
learn very much.
And there's a lot
Well,
of powerful sayings with that because Babe Ruth, every strikeout brings me closer to my next home run.
right,
And
Yeah.
and
then you look at
Bobby Jones, I learned nothing from,
yep,
the games I won, or the whatever, or
uh-huh.
the versus the
Yep,
ones
it's
I
just a
lost.
lot of
Yeah,
them, and
yeah.
just hold on to those. Hold on to those sayings when you're going through those battles. Helps you move forward.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, like, how has your definition of success changed between when you were in the game and now?
Oh yes, success back then was individual. It was more
Yeah.
individual look. Man, how am I doing? What am I doing now? And with me owning Beatty Enterprises now, I tell my team and everybody that works with me and for me, I tell them, hey, success is measured in impact. Success is measured in how many people we're impacting.
Mm,
If you want to know what we're doing and how well we're doing, our currency is impact.
Mm,
If we cannot multiply impact, then we're not doing what we're supposed to do. In Q1, impact, where are we at? How many lives and families and people are we going to touch? How are we going to impact them in Q1? Q2, what's up? How are we going to double it? How are we going up? Impact. So I think that that's the biggest thing that's changed for me because it works. It works that way. I mean, it works everywhere. If I am impacting a lot of people in a positive way, money is being made. Success is happening.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
See what I'm saying? And if I can go back again, like you said, Liam, and tell my younger self something, the next thing that I would say is after swing for the fences is be the best teammate that you could possibly be.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
like study that. When
Yeah.
you're going to work, take a teammate with you. You know, if somebody needs a ride, be that person to pick them up. If somebody's down, be that person to lift them up and to go over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I found out that when I started to think more about the team instead of me, is when I became elevated.
Mm.
My stats didn't go up until I started to put me second and the team first. How does that
Hmm.
how does that work whenever I said, you know what, forget me, I want to bunt to get this person over. But what happened was me bunting to get that person over as a leader on the team, the other team looked at that and it became contagious. We started to win more.
Right.
And by winning more, it took the stress off of us. And when the stress comes off of us from winning, what does that do to our abilities? Everybody is
Right.
Yeah.
breathing out of both nostrils. Everybody's kumbaya and together, and it makes playing the game fun. And when you're starting to have fun, that's when the numbers happen.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm
Well,
saying?
CJ, it takes a lot less energy to be generous than to be selfish,
There you
right?
go.
It's a
All
really
that
good point. Yeah.
cynicism is exhausting when you feel like everyone's out to get you and you got to be out in front all the time.
Hmm.
It's exhausting. But
It is.
when you give and you see that people start to trust you and give back, you get to count on that. You don't have to think as hard. You don't have to look around who's coming for your spot because you know everybody's just trying to elevate everybody else. That makes
Hmm.
such a great team, such a great family, such a great village. That's we need more of that.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, what about now, CJ? I ask everybody, what's your Everest now? What advice would you give to someone whose Everest is to build a path like yours? But I
Mm.
really want to know what's next for you.
um, right now, I mean, honestly, what's next is because that song became, now we have a bat.
Oh, I
Oh,
love that.
Yeah, we
That
have
is
a bat
great.
that's
awesome.
going to be released in well, not every to get started, but it's going to be released in Dick's Sporting Goods. We're going
Oh,
to
no
market with
way.
that in time for Christmas this year. So,
Incredible.
That
what's
is
next
so
is,
awesome.
yeah, I mean,
I
it's crazy
love that.
because it was a song. It was literally a song,
Right.
Row My
Right.
Boat, and it became a movement. And it is absolutely insane to see these young girls and their families. I mean, I am charting on the softball in the softball where I'm charting over Taylor Swift. I'm charting over Kendrick Lamar. I'm charting over
Wow.
Drake, DJ Khaled. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. That's number two to me. I'm number one in the softball
Wow.
world when it comes to music. So every day I wake up, it's another day of me just being thankful that I have this platform. But my Everest now is to be able to inspire as many young girls to believe in themselves. I'm just so thankful that as a girl dad, that I get a chance to be able to help level the playing field for these young female athletes to have a voice. And that's one of the things that really does motivate me and my brand with TSM is to give these female athletes a voice instead of being second to baseball and to
Yeah.
being the redheaded stepchild to baseball. Oh, it's the same, it's just a smaller field. No, you know what I'm saying? Like that's one of the things that really drives me and my team to be able to say no. These songs are ours. These songs are for us.
Yeah.
That's our bat. CJ gets us. We can talk. We can be very proud of our sport. We can do this. So that's my Everest right now is to give them that platform and that stance to say we belong.
I
Well,
love
they
that.
go crazy for you. That's for sure. I've seen some of the videos. It's hilarious. Wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, CJ, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure getting to hear from your life experience and this just really, really valuable advice for people wanting to follow in your footsteps. So, where can listeners follow your work and book you, find your brand, social media? How can we direct people to learn more about you?
Thank you for that. Yes, cjbeatty.com. cjbeatty.com has everything on it from the origin story, the history, the timelines, and also access to the other brands that we have. But if they want to get in touch with me, we have a contact button there through the website. Um, but also, if you're on social media at CJ Beatty 44 on Instagram and TikTok, and if you want more of the music, follow me on TikTok. If you want more of the everything, motivation, and everything under the sun, I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook as well for the ones that are just defiant and don't want to build an Instagram or TikTok and said I'm stuck in my Facebook era. Then we do have a page, the real CJ Beatty, on Facebook. So, but
Something
that's
for
where you.
everyone.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Well, thank you, CJ. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing some of your motivation with our listeners.
No problem. It's a real honor to be on here. I wish I would have had something like this back when I was coming up. So thank you so much
I
for
think we all do,
for
right?
bringing, for bringing this to life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for everything you're doing. It's wonderful.
Thank you.